friends, fans, and family. I'm going to show you today how I make my famous Grandpa's homemade bread. We eat a lot of bread around here, and I hope you'll enjoy making this bread at your home as well. I'm going to first talk to you a little bit about the tools that I use, then we'll show you how easy it is to get everything out and clean it up all at once. I'm using some Tupperware because I like to have the lines right at the top, because you'll see how I'm going to scoop up the flour and actually use the side of the bag to press in the amount to make sure that it's a 1 cup each. I also am using a 1.5 and a 1 teaspoon level so that I only use 1 spoon. I also like a particular style of bread pan. I don't like the short fat ones. Makes it too hard for the toast to go, or the bread to go into the toaster. So this one is the one that I like. We're going to be using this. We're going to get everything out and put it all away today. We're going to start with the flour. Like I said, we eat a lot of bread around here, so we get the 25-pound bags of flour from Costco. We also use some oil, and I like honey, dark honey in my bread. You can use light honey or salt or sugar if you wish. We're going to put some salt and yeast in, and I usually keep a larger deal of yeast, but we're going to go from there. So I'm going to put 3/4 of a cup twice in my mixture of my water. Everybody knows that too hot kills the yeast. Too cold doesn't make it raise. Sometimes you have to deal with also the cold side of your mixer here, so you can have a little warmer than you might have done otherwise. Dropping that in, I drop my water in such a way that I try to get very little water up the edges of my pan, because then my flour sticks on the side of it. So that's my 3/4 cup. We'll set that aside. Next, we're going to put in some yeast. I do like dealing out of this little bottle so that I can just scoop in, level off, and spread that all over the water here. We're going to put things away as we go so it's all cleaned up when I'm done mixing. There's my yeast. I'm going to get out some sugar, because we should all know that yeast likes to raise in a little bit of sugar. And I'm just going to put in this simple 1.5 teaspoons. Spread that over the top of the yeast, and you'll see that it kind of drops to the bottom better. Again, get everything out all at once so that you know you aren't forgetting it, and then put it away as you're done with it. So after the yeast and sugar, I like to go with my flour, and then create a mountain of flour in there. I'm going to put in 3 cups of white flour, and you'll see I'm just pressing on the side of the bag, on the front of this, on the top of the scoop, so that it creates a packed scoop, but it's also 1 scoop, 1 cup. And so it's measured that way every time, instead of having to get out a knife and smack it and cut it and make it flat. So there's my 3 cups of white flour. There, I've got the mountain forming. Shake off the cup a little bit. We'll put this one away. We're opening up a new bag of Hungarian wheat. I like the Hungarian wheat. It's a nice strong wheat flavor. Since you're only putting 1/4 of it in the flour, or in your mix of flour, then it gives it a good wheat flavor and a good color as well. That's the end use for my 1 cup measuring cup. Put my flour away, and you'll see that I have you'll see that I have a mountain of flour in there, and I'm going to change that as I put the salt in, because I don't want that salt to get down in and touch the yeast. You should know that salt actually kills the yeast. Just 1 teaspoon, and I'm going to carefully set that on the top of the mountain and start stirring it in so that it does not mix directly into the water or the yeast. I'm also now creating a valley out of that mountain. That's going to be important because as we put the oil and the honey in, again, we don't want those to get out on the side so that all the flour starts sticking there and you lose a bunch of your material. Put the salt away. I'm going to use a 1/3 cup now, and this is where I pour in my oil first, because as you pour in your oil, or if you use the same measuring tool as your oil and your honey will come out really nice. So as to make sure that I keep that effect, I'm going to go ahead and put my honey in before I put my oil away. So we're going to dump in the honey, 1/3 cup, and now we're dumping that in. You'll see that that comes out really nice. Amazed at how easy that honey comes out. There, see? Makes it really quick and easy instead of taking a half an hour to let your honey dump out. Now we'll put both the honey and the oil away. You'll see we have both gotten out and put in all of our recipe pieces and cleaned it all up. Now we're just going to choose the type of mix that we're going to do and the size. We're going to make dough and get that started. We'll be cooking it at 350. We'll get this on preheat, and I want to warm up the pan as well. So we're going to set it down by the venting spot from the oven. As the hot air comes up, it'll vent here. I'm not only going to warm up my pan now while it's in the mixer, but I'm going to also have my bread raise at this location. Now before I put my bread in, I will spray it with a light coat of cooking oil, making sure that I get in all of the corners. I will also spray my hands before I get the loaf out of the mixer, so that while I'm working the dough, it's a real easy mix. Spray in my hands. Retrieving the dough. I'm going to start working it, trying to stretch it out a little bit. And I like to stretch it up. It's important to really pack it in so it gets way down at the bottom. In addition, I pack it in so that it's deep in the corners and even higher up coming, because when it starts raising up, it's harder for it to raise in the corners, and I like a nice square loaf here. Okay, so we see that it's up to temperature. My exhaust area for the oven is right here, so that's where I'm going to set this to let it raise. It'll take probably 45 minutes to an hour. About halfway through, I will twist it around so that it gets warmth from both sides, or on both sides of this. I'm only going to let it raise about 1/4 of an inch, about 1/4 of an inch above the pan. If you let it raise any more than that, then it starts to mushroom when it's both raising and while it's in the oven. And then it doesn't fit in your toaster when there's big mushrooms out the side. So again, only let it raise about 1/4 of an inch above the pan, and then it'll finish raising inside the oven, and it'll come out to be a nice level loaf of bread for you. See how nice and flat that is? Whew. And didn't mushroom too bad. Comes out nice and easy when you've got that light spray on there. Whew. Love that bread.